Right, hello YouTube, we're back with some more Kerbal Space Program. In the last episode, we had a successful moon landing. The return trip was dicey in a parallel dimension, cough, quick save. We might have slightly tried to use the landing gear to slow us down, which worked briefly, and then it didn't, and we exploded. But through the majesty of spinning, shedding heat for some reason, we managed to bring it down safely, just about. But that was not good. We don't want a repeat of that, if we can avoid it. Now, with our current technology, we're not going to get much further. We need bigger fuel tanks. The biggest problem, if anything, we need bigger fuel tanks. We need to be able to advance into like the 1.85 meter size stages. So I'm going to look into what it would take to actually start to get that. And I think fuel systems is the next stop. Oh dear, and potentially advanced fuel systems as well. So taking a quick drink because I've been coughing a lot today. I'm trying not to cough in the recordings too much if I can manage it. Potentially, another thing we might want to take is command modules. We've got quite a bit of science because command modules unlock some bigger crew pods for us, including things like the Proteus and the Nereid that can carry more than one crew member. Now this would be good because one of our big problems has been having to have that darn Science Junior module below the command pod, which means the heat shield has to be below that, which ruins the shape of the spacecraft and makes our landings way sketchier. So if we could have, for example, one of these two that can carry two, we could bring a scientist with us, and then he, or she, potentially, whoever we bring, I think it'll be he at the moment because we've only got one, we'll be able to transfer the science out of that into the main crew pod, and we can ditch it on the way down. We don't actually need to bring it back with us. So I think we shall take command modules. Additionally, this particular one, the Nereid, can have small engines fitted in it once we've unlocked them. So it can have a little bit of power to get around on its own, which is a very low-weight way of being able to go a little bit further. Also going to take, as mentioned, fuel systems. And now we'll actually be able to fuel some of those larger engines we've got. We could potentially go a little bit further for water. We could go to advanced to get ourselves some larger tanks. We could take specialist construction for some parts. We could take heavier rocketry for some bigger engines. Although we're fairly well off for engines at the moment. Our next mission might be a repeat landing on one of the planets, but with a slightly improved lander, perhaps. I'm trying to think what would be the best thing to do next. Scanning tech exploration. Ooh, get a lab. We could work towards getting a lab. Labs are a very interesting way to get extra science very, well, slowly, technically, but quickly for us, because we can time warp through it. We go for better solar panels. We go for miniaturization and get docking ports. We can't, unfortunately, get advanced unmanned tech yet because that needs rendezvous and docking, and we don't have that yet. What I might be tempted to say is we take electronics because that gives us sun-following solar panels and some bigger batteries, which gives us quite a few options. And potentially, we could take one of the lower. We'll take propulsion systems, because if you remember I mentioned that pod had engines in it. I believe these two are those engines. So we'll want that research to be able to make use of that extra feature, and we probably do want to make use of that. It is useful. So, mission control, what would be good to do next? We've got one to do a spacewalk near the moon. We say about doing a repeat landing, so we could potentially do that. Another one for another flag, which we'll still get paid for. There will be a little bit of repetition of some missions to land in different places on various things. Satellites around places, observational study of the moon, temperature at 3 different spots. Could also do space camp. Send some tourists up to potentially join the space program. That would be quite an interesting one. Or bring 2 tourists to orbit. We have a few options. I'm trying to think. Again, if we do enough for the space tourist ones, we will unlock the I think it's the space camp. We will unlock the longer term ones of building the hotel, but again, we need docking for that really, so it's probably not our best bet to do just yet. What we'll probably take for now is these two again. We'll do a spacewalk near the moon while we're in orbit around it, and we'll plant another flag in a different spot. That'll give us a good bit of money. We'll get some more science by landing in a different region, and we'll test out our new, what will it be, Moon of 5, I think? Very fitting name, actually, given the Saturn V after all, of course, the real moon landing rocket. Or one of them at least. I'm pretty sure there's a few different versions of it. Right. Moon of 4. I'm going to upgrade this to the Moon of 5. Now, most of this rocket is good, but there are some things that need improving. For one, it is short on Delta V. We were very tight on our landing last time. We probably want, I'm going to say 7,000. That should give us a bit more leeway. So I'm going to take these parts off for now. I think I know how I'm going to improve this. Take that off. I'll just take this whole section off for now, and we're going to delete this. We're going to replace the Mark 1 crew pod with the... I'm going to try the Nereid. This is a 2-man space pod, one I was talking about, with a few extra features. So we'll put that back on. In fact, I might even be tempted to streamline this a bit more. So what we'll actually do is we'll take that off and ditch it for now. The chute on the top, much nicer looking. We will still keep the thermometer and the barometer attached, although we might clip them in again to get that nice streamlined look. Okay. But the science modules, we do need to attach that for the moment actually. The science modules will be part of the lander still, but they will be separate from the main craft. So we're on the same heat shield still. I don't quite like how that doesn't quite line up, but that should be fine. To attach the, I believe it's the chickadees. The Nereid. Okay, so that is for a larger pod. So we have a good 300 something Delta V on this pod alone. So the pod itself will be able to make very small adjustments, perhaps to help in landing. I think are these still heat shielded? Can we... Integrated? Hang on, what? Oh, we can cover them up, I see. No, we do want we do want those. Okay. Sorry, I was just checking that out. Sent an option before. Right, we want a decoupler. Nope. Nope. Should have sorted by size. Right, what a decoupler. And we want the Science Junior. And we're also going to need an extra little attachment in the form of the... Well, we can take that decoupler out. That's fine. We're going to just ditch that weight entirely. We will want a mystery goo. And since we're not going to attach one on the top, we're going to attach one to the back. It's slightly unaerodynamic, but it shouldn't be enough of a problem that it kills the whole mission. Right, then... Actually, how big is... Oh, no, the strap-on one's even worse for that. So we say we could potentially put it in a crew compartment, but... Or a storage compartment, but no, it's worse. So, I'm going to check the arrangement of everything here. There, detaches, and then 3. So, we are actually down a bit on Delta V, and I think that's because the Nereid is heavier. So, and we've got the extra engine, so we'll have to do a little bit of tweaking. I'm going to take this off. This doesn't look quite right there. We're going to fit that underneath there, so it's at least taking advantage of the aerodynamics on the mystery goo container. Each one shields the last to reduce drag. I think that's how that works anyway. Whoops. That's our Delta V map. We already know that. We need to get this up to about 7k. So we are going to need to tweak things. Now, we should be able to do that because we've got some more efficient tanks and things now. For example... Although, is this going to make it taller using that? I'm just considering something quickly here. Let's give it a look. I think that's going to be taller, but... Take those off and replace them with one. Maybe a little bit taller. How does that look? Oh, with landing legs. Tell you what, we'll scale those. Wait, do we have the advanced landing? Can we scale those up as well? Alright, we had a quick pause while something happened there. It is going to be taller, and because the moon is not very flat, we're going to fit wider, larger landing legs on it, which is going to increase weight more. It's not ideal, but or do we want to keep this stage smaller, actually? Still fit the wider landing legs, and then make... Yeah, we'll make this stage actually same height, but we'll beef up the lower stages a bit, and we'll keep the larger landing legs, because the moon was not very flat, and these are wider. So they'll naturally make us a bit more stable, basically. Back to about 6,000. So, one thing we can do, take this off for the moment, is we can place these 3 tanks with, see how the weight's looking, but potentially do one of those and one of those. So we're looking for weight. What is our thrust to weight like on this stage? And this one's basically meant to fire when we're in orbit anyway, 1.62. We were to do, so we have to improve one of the stages sizes. That, and then put the fins back on. How are we looking? There's a slight increase. We might have to even add an additional stage at the bottom. That could be the bit we redo, perhaps, because we've got 2,100 delta V on that at the moment. We replace it with a larger liquid stage. It's going to cost a bit more, but it should work. Oh, I accidentally forgot the stop recording key. Also, is the hangar extension key. Right. So, yes, let's extend this section. Begone. Into the void with you. We now need a adapter from 1 meter to 2 meter. Oh, I think this is 1.85 meter. Sort of half-size stages. Yeah. Do we want to go for those? I guess we can go for those. Don't know what we have in the way of engines for this size, but let's have a look. Actually, is that big liquid hydrogen engine? Oh, the Bobcat. Okay. A little low on power. How about that? 1.5. No, that's not really worth it. That's not getting very good performance at all. Go for a big one like the Erebus. I think this is quite powerful. 550 delta V. Oh, thrust. That's not huge. Okay, thrust to weight's okay on that, although we need more fuel than that. About like that. This could potentially work. If I just double that. Well, this is getting a bit flexible at this point. I'm not liking this. No, okay. I'm not feeling that. I don't think that's going to work very well. Let's instead go up to 2 meters. And go for some of these. And then perhaps a skipper. Poodle's not going to be beefy enough. That gets us up to 5,000. Yeah, we could do that and then perhaps add a solid onto it. Solid rocket booster, or even extend that a little bit. It's going to need to be... Can't be too much heavier because we're hitting the weight limit. Yeah, that's about as big as that stage can get. We're at 6,000. Yeah, and then if we add some solids onto this stage... let's see, so... Go for 4. That's 4 of those big Pollux boosters. Yeah. That's actually overbuilt at that point. Now we've gone too big. Okay, this is about right, I think. Let's get these attached straight. Right. So with those, 7,700. That is about right. If anything, it's possibly a bit big, but if you remember what I said earlier, we're better to overbuild and not need some of it than to underbuild and not have enough, as we nearly saw in that last mission. Fit those up there, so that they're nice and well braced, and we'll brace the rest of the rocket. We might also fit a couple down here to stop them skewing sideways. Because usually I find quite a good way to attach your solid boosters. Roughly in this sort of triangle shape. So brace them once at the top so they can't flex inwards, and once on either side at the bottom so they can't go side to side. And we'll also add Delta Deluxe here. And we also need launch supports. Which are going to fit... yeah, that should be about right. That shouldn't collide with anything. So. Oh, we are running into tonnage limit. We are just overweight. By the tiniest amount. If we take those fins off... No, okay. That's a pain. We slightly under... I don't know, we had a different colour version of those. We slightly underfuel these. There we go. We're still easily clear on fuel. On Delta V. Okay. This is the Mark II. Let's give it a flight and see if this works. Let's also put it closer to the ground. To the launch pad. Again, this is getting a bit on the complicated side, but hopefully you're still following what the rocket does. We'll check staging. Boosters, check. Detach. Central core, check. Detach. That one, yep. Detach. Lander engine, check. Detach. Emergency boosters coming back. And we need to make sure we have a scientist on board. We do have a hatch. Okay, just checking that. Doesn't look like it's blocked. Oh, solar panels. We're going to need solar panels as well. We don't want the engineer, we want the scientist. We also, again, need solar panels, because otherwise we can't recharge. People rely on a Delta V, but I believe we'll be okay. If we do a couple of these neat little... say maybe 3 even. Stick out a little bit. So let's move those in a little bit. There we go. And when we extend them, yeah, that looks good. Okay, Moon of 5 is okay for weight. Let's go for launch. Oh, check the crew. Check it hasn't changed the back. Okay, Jeb and is it Bill? Bill the scientist? Jeb and Bob. We're going for Moon Mission 2. Again, we're a bit more fuel this time, so we have a little bit more to do our landing with. The main difference should be we don't have to dip into our lander's fuel tank until closer to the actual landing. Right. Okay, we need not you. We need the auto set guidance. I do spend a lot of time moving windows around. I find with MechDev sometimes feels like I need more space on screen. But I believe I normally have it set up something like that. I don't remember. Put you down there, actually. That looks about right. So, gauge autopilot. Okay. Let's also see that so we can see how high we're going. 3, 2, 1, launch. Good plume of smoke there. Looks to be holding steady. Not wobbling too much. There's actually another advantage to these tanks. Because they are only a single tank, you haven't got the top and bottom sections as part of them, so they actually are more weight efficient. It is more weight efficient to have larger tanks than to have multiple smaller ones stuck together. Sadly, there's no 2/3 or 3/4 size tank for up there, but it should be perfectly fine for what we're doing. Gravity turn going well, accelerating nicely, but holding quite solid. The only slightly sketchy bit will be when we detach these boosters that are quite fragile once they're empty. But I have had incidents of things being smashed when colliding with boosters. Now you can have small rockets to separate them, but we didn't go quite that complicated on this one. Oh, it got smashed. Okay. Returning to vehicle assembly. We're going to have to go into separatrons in this episode, it seems. By separatrons, I mean separation boosters. So, do we actually have any first question? We do not. That's going to be a problem. Okay. How do we deal with this? Or do we have to redesign this bottom stage? I think we have to redesign this bottom stage. Normally, what we could do is we could attach separatrons, which are very small to cut solid rocket boosters, onto the top and bottom of these boosters. And then when we separate, we can fire them at the same time and they'll push them away from the main rocket. And what you saw is what happens if that doesn't happen and you get a collision, which is where it smashes the tank and the engine. Obviously, that's not ideal. For reasons you've literally just seen, so... we are a little iffy on weight. What we might try... how much just to weight the Pollux get us? We might try putting a couple of Pollux boosters underneath us instead of sitting on top of 2 of them. Which sounds a bit weird, obviously, but you'll sort of see what I mean in a sec. No, that's the wrong size. So what we'll have is just a little... it's look a bit strange, but a little structural girder there. 2 of these. And we'll just carefully Okay, no, that does take us quite a bit over the weight limit, so we can't do that. Could we then potentially do... we had 3 of those, right? Could we do 4 of these? So we could do that, I believe, technically. Oh, was that the weight of the coupler? And we did nose cones. Oh, there. A little over the weight limit. Oh, mind you, we had to unfeel them a bit, didn't we? That should be okay. This is not a particularly good way to do this, but we're going to try it. The good news is this should at least not have any problems with interference, because it will drop off the bottom. And we're on about the same delta V. Right, let's slightly unfuel these. Down a notch, and also we're going to put you down a notch, or they'll run out at different times. Oh, height limit. If we drop the rocket down further on its thing, is that okay? No, we're too tall. Running into issues in a different size dimension now, right? I guess we're not doing that. How do we make this work? We don't have, I believe, any more powerful engines than the... Actually, what is our most powerful engine? The Skipper is 650. I think the Skipper is still our most powerful engine at the moment. Although we could cluster some smaller engines. That is an option. 460. The Deinonychus is quite powerful. We could cluster a few of those. Potentially do a bigger liquid fuel stage. Let's give it a try. Not a cheap engine particularly, but I believe it burns liquid methane. Yeah, liquid methane engines. So, remember we need to get about 7,000, ideally. As I say, we have adapters, but I think they're too small. Yeah. Do we have any... Wait, no, we have engine plates, don't we? Which are specifically designed for this job. Although we don't have them on the right side, so we're just going to have to attach them straight to the tank. Right. I think we can actually change the mount to... Yeah. That looks a bit better. Right, we need... what is it? LCH4? Oh, yeah, that's the one. Liquid methane and liquid oxygen. Still getting a good thrust to weight. 2.2, still good. 1.75, and we're over 7,000 delta V. I think that's going to work. Again, a lot of the time the simplest solution is the best. In this case, I think the simplest is clustering a few engines together this time. Good news is because they're liquid engines as well, we will have a little bit more control. Now, liquid methane, I believe, also boils off a bit. I don't think it's as bad as the other cryogenic engines, but that's not so much of an issue when it's the first stage and we're going to burn through it all way before boil-off becomes an issue anyway. So, I believe Moon of 5 is actually complete this time. Let's try for launch again. This is what a lot of KSP is like. Even for the people that are really good at it, there probably is quite a lot of their videos perhaps unseen, unless they show it all. Bits where stuff has gone wrong. Not particularly spectacularly, but just like, oh no, there's a small issue, like, got to go back and fix it now, kind of thing. Obviously our issue was actually quite explosive, but... oh, what we haven't done is braced it, but hopefully we'll be okay. Right, anyway. 3, 2, 1, go. Liquid methane engines are pretty looking. They're running. I believe Scott Manley has done a video on why you get these sort of cone-shaped formations in the engines, but that is actually what the real ones look like, I believe. Yeah, if you don't know Scott Manley, and if you've discovered my KSP video, I'd be surprised, but he's someone who knows a lot about actual rocket science and also does a lot of KSP, so he is a very good potential source. I believe Matt Lowe, I think, is also quite a good one. And there are definitely some other good KSP channels. Danny, perhaps a bit more chaotic, but also some fun Kerbal stuff. So it's seeing we're losing cones as we get higher. However, all seems to be going well. Now, weight might start to become an issue at some point. If we end up hauling a lot of this to space, it's probably actually quite a heavy build, so it might be turning quite slowly. So if we end up lugging much more weight to this to space, we'd want to be considering adding thrusters to it, or larger reaction control systems to turn it easily. But at the moment, we're quite pressed for weight, so we're going with this. I have to admit, it is quite sleek looking with that pod up the top there. We haven't got the right Kerbals. I think we can see the interior if we turn that on. Nope. Maybe not, or at least not through the flames. Still, it appears to be burning as expected. There we go, engine's cutting back. Must be at 100. That was a nice smooth ascent, all things concerned. Yeah, I was going to say considered, but concerned works too. This rocket makes me concerned. Right, yeah, so it looks like we're going to have a... Basically, this stage is going to be good to put us into orbit and transfer us out to the moon, alongside the last of what's left of this one to put us into orbit. And then we'll have a bit more to land on, hopefully. Hey, and there we go. Solar panels open. MetJeb will do that for you if you've got it ticked. Looking a bit fancier. We're going to order stage enabled, because we're probably going to need that later. Yeah, as you can see, it takes a little longer to turn now. We're getting heavier. Real world reaction wheels I believe wouldn't have a chance of turning this rocket fast enough to make this maneuver. They'd take way longer. They are enormously weaker in real life. They do work, again, as said, to some degree. But this sort of magical turning force only kind of works in real life, and it doesn't work in quite the same way. You need thrusters, basically, a lot more. But the space station does use some to adjust its attitude, International Space Station. And, of course, we'd like to build our own space stations at some point later in this game. We've got a few contracts for them already, actually. The trick has just been, at the moment, not having great technology to recover a large amount of Kerbals in one go, but we're kind of getting towards that point. We still really need to... Probably our next steps are to improve our rocketry capability. Our other stuff is actually quite good. We've got good flight control or whatever, but we need bigger fuel tanks. Oh boy, we're wibbling. Okay. Quick fix. If you're wibbling, turn the gimbal limit down on your main engines. Basically, it has a little bit too much control. So cut. Just cut the maneuver. Okay. We're okay. A little bit thrown off, but... Yeah, sometimes if you have a bit too much control, a bit too much power, it can cause more problems. Also, additionally, setting your fins to disabled, basically, can also help a bit, because they apply a little bit of force when they move. And you don't want that, because those fins aren't doing anything at this point. You're in space. Your fins are only effective until you're out in the atmosphere. I believe our quests were... Yes, we've got to do a spacewalk in the moon. Got to not forget that. And we've got to plant another flag, so it should be easy enough. But we've got to just not forget to actually do those things. Right. Home and transfer. Correct node. Looks sensible. Let's go. You could also check quickly. So it thinks it'll take us about 580 to land. It'll be a little higher for MechJib. If it looks like we're going to have about the right amount of fuel, we could potentially leave this stage to do most of the landing, and then it'll ditch it and swap to the main one halfway through, and then that'll save us even more fuel, but I'm not 100% on that. We may still want to use the lander to bring us down. Just let this do every other part, but we'll see. See how things are looking again. We're a little slower turning. We don't have quite as much torque perhaps in this pod, or it might be that the rocket... I think the rocket is just heavier, because we've got basically a full tank here, but that's also good. That does mean we can, again, should have a slightly less tight margins on this one. Yeah, we've got all our same science equipment. It's just slightly differently arranged this time. Don't actually need to bring it back. We just need the results. Now, I think as a scientist, I think Bob can actually scrub out the pod and reuse it, but I don't know if we can carry more than one copy of the same results back in the pod. I'm not 100% sure on that. Might even be able to, but for now, we'll assume it's going to be one use and just get our samples from the ground. What we should, however, do going to turn off all this AG for now so it doesn't screw anything up. Is add an extra stage because those boosters shouldn't be coming on the same time as the parachute. And then auto stage enabled, but only to stage 3. Good. Okay. Oh, yeah, sometimes as well, you're not supposed to rotate during Time Warp by default, and obviously you do in real life, but however, KSP seems to have a weird thing where sometimes you will a little bit. In fact, it's even a trick that you can enable Time Warp to stop yourself from a big spin. But strange enough, when you Time Warp, sometimes you sort of drift off the where you were facing, so MechGen will occasionally just freeze Time Warp to put itself back on track. It's kind of funny. Alright, we are burning. I'm a little bit wondering, given by that spin we had earlier, and considering that I realised a bit later the LTB-30 can't gimbal, which means it actually is a little bit limited in its control in space. We have to be, if we were hugely off balance, we would start to rotate. I was wondering if it was actually sending us into a tiny bit of a spin, but looks like it might be drifting a little, but I think we're okay. We've got a bit of torque, we'll counteract that from the crew module. I wonder what their view's like in there. No, their view, not ours. He did a little wave. That's quite nice in there. Alright. Moves drawn to a close, and we've ended up where we want to be, roughly. By roughly, I mean, that is absolutely close enough for me. Let's go. And as usual, it's the same thing. We've seen this before. Change periaps to 100. Will do. Actually, we'll say 50. Oh, and after 60 seconds. Create and execute. 69 Delta V. Nice. Where is the moon? I see Kerbin. There it is. Again, getting some lovely, pretty screenshots from the sun. Big solar, what's that? What do you call it? Lens flare. That's the one. That's what I'm getting confused with. But yes, I know this has been a very similar episode to the last one in some ways, but hopefully it's interesting seeing how we can sort of improve our technology. As you sort of research further down the tree and you sort of more capabilities become unlocked, you can sort of improve your various designs and things. Now, I actually have access to a few more things that aren't necessarily in the stock game, because I've got mods involved, but it's kind of similar progression in the base game as well. To be honest, though, I mostly play with mods anyway, so the completely stock progression doesn't bother me too much, because I'm not very good at it. Yeah, well, I think we are drifting a tiny bit with this engine. Oh no, it's because we're circularizing the maneuvers moving. I'm not sure. I think it's drifting a tiny bit because we're a tiny bit what do I mean? Not off center. Asymmetrical. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, we're a tiny bit asymmetrical because we've got the these three on the side throwing the weight off slightly. I think with the torque we've got for the command pod, it's not an issue, but it would be on a lighter craft. You might have to be quite careful with either. Yeah, I'd have to be careful with the center of mass, or have an engine that's quite low power but burns for a long time, because that doesn't mind as much. You have longer to correct any drift for it because the drift's not as extreme. So things like, for example, ion engines, which are electrical engines that burn like a gas as fuel, but in a sort of different way. They're not technically burning it. Those are very efficient engines, and they're ones we'll gain access to later, and alongside their larger and more advanced cousins, like the plasma engines. But they tend to have very low thrust, very efficient, and very long burns, so they'll run for a long time. As in, like, probably time warping and also editing out those burns to some degree, because they are slow. I try to avoid editing as much as I can with these videos, but I have to admit, for later episodes, I might have to do some edits, or just at least do what I did with Astrox, and just cut out the longer middle bits. Or rather, by cut, I mean just stop recording until they're done, basically. Right. We now have to land. I'm thinking For the sake of reliability... no, we'll try. We'll try landing partly on this engine. Right. We do need to find, however... let's also enable flags so we can see where we've landed before. So we landed, I believe, in the Midlands. It's over here. Right. Landing guidance. Don't need to move the planet. Yes, that was the Midlands. So we need to land somewhere that isn't the Midlands. There's the East Crater. The Lowlands, the Midland Craters. Any other different name is a different place to land. The Poles. We don't want to land at the Poles because our orbit's nowhere near it. We'll lose a lot of extra fuel getting to that point. Highlands we could land in. Where are the Highlands? Oh, over here. Oh, over around the edge of the crater. I see. Okay. Specifically this spot? Interesting. See, normally I landed the crater, but I tell you what. No way to tell how flat it is. Try and land in the big crater, perhaps. And those craters weren't as flat as they looked. Land in that one. Twin craters. These interesting upland ones. Okay, we'll go for the big one. Why not? Alright, we'll go for the big one. That looks like a little divot in the bottom of the crater. This one looks flat. It probably isn't, but let's try it. If it isn't, we can always adjust like we did before. We sort of kick ourselves in the right direction and adjust right. Land at target. I do not know how much fuel it thinks will take us to land. We might have to automatically, or manually rather, ditch the current stage if it looks like it's going to try and land us on it, because obviously it doesn't have any landing gear. It's not suitable to land on, and it'll probably flip over. We do not want parachutes deployed. We need those. They're not going to work on the moon, and we need them. That little marker there is the flag. I think we're getting close to it. We can see it. Yeah, first main landing site. Going to probably adjust our angle a little bit here to put us on the right plane or whatever it's called. As I said, it's quite a similar mission to last time, but again with notable improvements, a better handling rocket. Right, I think we've got a tiny bit of monoprop on board. Can we use thrusters? We can. Yeah, it doesn't use very much. We'll use that to speed up a little bit. There you go. So there's reaction thrusters. RCS, or either pressing R or clicking that, will turn those on. They use a little bit of fuel. Now, we want to be a bit careful because that's actually this. They use the same fuel, but... appears to be stuttering a little bit. Just our thing. Well, seems to be happy with that. Should leave RCS on because we've got one last big turn to do. Again, we don't want to burn too much because that is actually, I believe, the same stuff that runs these engines. Because some of your engines run on monoprop. Yep, you see our delta V's going down a bit there. But it might actually increase on lower stages because it's actually burning off a tiny bit of weight. Delta V needed 300. Yes, it should automatically ditch the bottom stage as long as we've got auto warp on still. Do auto stage even. Yes, that's our crater. Now, this is the bit where Maker potentially gets it wrong, because I don't know if it's accounted for having another stage that's going to be less powerful beneath the one it's currently using. It is burning at full, kind of slows it down. Again, it may have potentially got this wrong, so we may have to quick load. Yeah, it has got this wrong. That is what I was afraid of. Yes, okay, so that was why I was considering dropping that bottom stage before we even start the landing. Right, so we are in orbit around the moon. I don't know if we have a landing site picked. Target on map. I can't remember where we picked before, so we'll go for the East Crater again. We'll go for that. Land at target. What we shall do, once it has made the main deorbit burn, we will temporarily turn it off and we will detach that stage. We'll get it right for it basically this time. I'm just going to turn RCS on, speed things up a little bit. It's not waiting quite so long for it to just turn around. But yes, even a weak RCS thrusters are normally a lot stronger than reaction wheels, at least if you haven't specifically put reaction wheel modules on, in which case they can actually be quite strong. To the point where you can actually use them to roll around on planetary surfaces and things, which is always quite funny. But if you haven't covered your outside of your rocket with fins and legs and things. I wonder if we bought an engineer, if we could tell him to just take those fins off and save the weight once we're in space. Be an interesting option, I suppose. Right, and auto land, cut throttle, land at target. Correct us slightly. Don't need. Oh, okay. No, do not use RCS for fine adjustment. Oh, that's interesting. That must be a visual bug. Seems to think they're still on, but they're not using extra resources. It is deploying landing gear. It's not deploying parachutes. Good. Decided that he's going to use RCS, I guess. Bad mech, yep. Telling you not to do that. Well, too late to shut it off now. It's wasting fuel that we actually wanted for our upper stage, but I think we're still going to be fine anyway. We've got more than we had last time. Because we don't have to bounce the landing again anyway. There goes the rest. Boom. We had these seismometers on the surface. We probably got a reading about that. Hang on. Off. Stop it. You're not supposed to be doing that. Told you not to use RCS for it unless once it's turned on it thinks it has to. Oh, tied to time warp. That's brave, mech. They'll be time warping down to the surface. You sure about that? I think we're going to be okay, though. It's going to take us down okay this time. And I think we're going to be okay slope-wise as well. We've landed on a flat spot. Nearly landed on top of a little hill, which is good, because I think anywhere around here practically would have been on the slope. For some miracle, it's found the flat spot. Off. Off. Why is it locked on? Is this something else? Did I turn some utilities thing on? Don't know, anyway. Yeah, it doesn't want to shut off. That's weird. I don't know why it's doing that. Anyway, we're down. We are leaning something drastic, and I don't know. Oh, we're on a little bit of a slope. Okay. Science. Observe the mystery goo. Needs to be less dense here. Yep, that sounds familiar. Pressure data. Yep. Yep, probably the same reports on all of these. Slightly different amounts of data. I think we're getting a little bit more than the last one. That's exactly the same note. Crew report. Okay. Right, new Kerbal on the surface. Bob. Whoa, up. Oh, it's this bug again. Hello. I had this bug a little while back. Yeah. Interesting, ain't it? Yeah, if you hit a solar panel in midair with a jetpack on the Kerbal, I had this a little while back. Well, I mean, yeah, you can kind of see what's going on here. I appear to be floating. Am I drifting down? Is that falling over? I am drifting down. Yeah, and if you sort of jump, you, is it drifting over, or am I imagining it? What happens if we take a surface sample up here? Oh, we do actually get it. The surface sample contains a combination of breccia and melted materials. 120 science. Okay. EVA report. We can't plant a flag. I guess I'm going to have to wait for him to sort of sink down to the surface. This is not, I have to admit, entirely what I was intending to be doing today. Bill is a magical lad. One eye slightly smaller than the other, I've just noticed. That feels fitting at the moment. Here's, does he actually still descend while I'm walking? Is it faster even descending? No. I do not know what does that. I don't know if that's a... Oh. Hey! You return to normality? No, his feet have not quite touched the ground. There we go. Oh no, he actually ascends a little bit as well when he walks. Let's try and plant a flag when he actually sinks to the bottom. Plant flag. Secondary lunar landing. Right. Bob is cursed now. Do not come back to this crater. Just enabled that aerodynamics overlay again, which I didn't want. Okay, that's how I disable it. F12. Kraken is still here. Okay. We could walk out to one of those rocks, but given the floating bug, I'm a little dubious about that. So let's have him copy Sanji's air step from One Piece. Or Airwalk, or whatever it's called. And jump his way through space. Okay. That was weird. I believe... Oh, we didn't do our spacewalk. Shoot. I meant to do that. I think we could technically do that on the way out. So, where are we facing relative to Kerbin? We're actually facing towards it. So if we just burn up and stay that way, then we could do our spacewalk quickly before we leave the planet's influence. So let's try that now. As long as we're not accelerating, that should be fine. Or rather, I should say, as long as we're not accelerating when we get out, that should be fine. I do not know why SAS is... or RCS is locked on. I literally can't disable it. It shouldn't be locked on like this. Oh, you know the other thing we have to do while we do the spacewalk? We have to recover the data. I nearly forgot about that. We do have to actually recover it and bring it back into the pod, because otherwise we will lose it. Hopefully this should, as before, take us out of the moon's orbit. At the moment we're just waiting. Again, as soon as we are, we'll try and do our spacewalk carefully. Okay. Should go any second. Okay, there we go. Right. Jeb, you're... No, I think Bob has to do this again. Yes, so as you can see, because we're not accelerating... oh, orbital spacewalk. Oh, okay. No, we have to actually go into orbit. Okay. It should be doable. It's going to burn a bit more fuel, but we bought extra. Okay. So we have to actually be in orbit. That's fine. Circularize. Move the planet. We take about 400. That's fine. We should still have plenty. Yes, again, we did slightly also clonk a solar panel, which is not ideal. We still have good enough coverage. It should be getting power most of the time. But yes, that's not the first time I've run into that bug. I actually wanted to... It was about the same time as I got that recording of Bill is Drunk from the channel. That little bug where one of the Kerbals basically got concussed, seemingly, after a landing. Or not a landing, a flip of a rover. And brain. I think it was earlier that day when I was doing a mission with a friend on multiplayer that I had this bug come up, but I guess it's not limited to multiplayer because we haven't got the multiplayer mod even installed this time. But yes, that sort of weird airwalk thing was interesting. I had the Kerbal. The other Kerbals are fine, by the way, I should mention, but they stay in that weird floating state, the other ones. So I had a Kerbal land on his head and be able to sort of bounce off him and whatnot, but he was just floating in midair, not a care in the world. I was really hoping to try and get it on video, but again, I didn't manage to get it in time. But in this case, it seems we were lucky. Well, not even get it in time, even though I didn't think to get it, I think, at the time. Okay, we are back in orbit. Okay, now we should be able to go on an orbital spacewalk. Yep, it's going green. We've got a contract complete. Right. Get closer to that. Collect the data. Take the data. Data, I think you can scrub restore, yes. See if we can take the data. Restore. Can we run it again? Now, and also take the data again. Keep experiment. Collect data? We can! Cool, we can run it twice. Observe the goo. And collect the data. Cool. Got a little extra there then. Okay, yeah, so we can actually have more than one copy of an experiment in the pod, so it's all actually stored in the command pod now, rather than in the modules. Yeah, that's fine. And the power apps is a lot closer to where we actually want it to be this time. So this actually, I think, used less fuel. Yeah, I think this might actually be more efficient than burning directly back to Earth. Or Kerbal. I actually think we used less fuel getting to this point. Maybe? That's not going to be bad anyway. Still gonna have a little bit of extra fuel left in an area, so we'll maybe use that on re-entry to slow us down. Even with having burned some of it for manoeuvres. As well turn that thrust limiter back up. Yeah, now we can turn it off. I don't know why we couldn't before. I guess because we quick loaded it, fixed whatever weird bug was going on, but... There's the doors. There's the doors. Never know. Close the doors, maybe some of it will survive re-entry. We'll be following on the same path we are, pretty much. I reckon if it's exposed to the hot plasma, it probably won't. Friction is a dangerous thing, as many people know. Right. Perhaps... Where is it? No, not change semi-major axis. I'm not even entirely sure what that is. It is a thing you can do, and I do not know what it means. Is it important? Pass. Right. And after this, I shall call this episode. It's run on for a little longer anyway. Longer missions than this, which are definitely going to come up. I will have to split into multiple parts. Because I don't want to be... I don't really like the videos getting too long, because then the editing gets a little unreliable, and the editing, the rendering even. The longer one goes on for, it's like, more likely that something's going to go wrong mid-render here, so... We'll get back, we'll do a quick summary, and then we'll finish up, I expect. So you've seen why these moon missions as well. There's a reason I prefer to land on Moonless, and that's because a lot of the stuff just works from Moonless. The moon seems to have been historically a bit jankier for whatever reason. Right. Warp helper. We've got not a huge amount of seconds of stuff, so we'll just go for 10 seconds to warp entry. Atmospheric entry. Warp. Go. Fire everything. Are we going to be landing at night again? No, it should be daytime. Good. You guys should be able to actually see what's going on. Same for me, honestly. Well, it's getting a bit darker now. It's no longer super glary on my screen. One suspects we might have a water landing today. Right, retrograde. Use the RCS as well if you need. We need to turn quick. I'm freaking out. Small bursts. The only thing I've never been saw with this command pod is the exposed engines that are exposed to the air. Now, I assume they've done something clever to make it so they're actually shielded, but it always kind of looks like that would catch the atmosphere and overheat to me. Oh yes, and your craft will actually use RCS as fuel if you've got nothing else. Although I don't know if that's a mod thing or not. Right, Cuba's pointing backwards. And the heat. Yeah, even though it looks like they're exposed, I guess we're technically not. They don't technically overheat. Unless we could shut covers over them or something. Which I'm not seeing an option for, I have to admit. But they're also not overheating. I think that one is getting hot, though. Yeah, it sort of looks like, given that we know there are covers on an alternate form, it kind of looks like there should be like heat-proof covers that can sort of slide up to cover them. But I guess if we just rotate gradually, we'll even the heat out between them. Again, spinning. Spinning is key. Or we could potentially use the Proteus pod, which loses those engines, but will be a tiny bit lighter and has the standard form factor without the bit sticking out. So it seems to be working well enough. But if we don't spin, it's still okay even if I don't spin, really. Seems these bars are a little more aggressive than the actual overheat level. Might be to give you a bit of a warning, like you're getting really close, like. We're okay though. I think this pod is going to make it no problem. Assuming that parachute's enough, and I would be very surprised if it was not, given the size. It does look a lot more advanced than the Mark 1. Whether it actually is or not is a matter for debate, but... Well, actually no, we know it is. It carries more people. Thrusters and things, but... Yeah, we're totally out of fuel. We burned it all up. So world first. First flyby of the sun? What? Not sure when we did that. Flag planting on the moon. Explore the moon. Explore the moon. Cool. We did it. Basically. Contract's complete. Parachute. Open at 600. Or main open at 600. Definitely a water landing. We might be waiting a little while for them to sail out and come get us with this one. We'll see what our speed's looking like once we once the chute opens. We might have to detach the heat shield as well. I don't know how heavy this pod is off the top of my head compared to the Mark 1. They're still coming in quite fast, but it should open any second. I might just say any second once we're near the seat. Wow. Okay, we hit that hard. Yikes. Wow, okay. Well, absolute full props to this pod with taking that impact like a champ. But my word, I need to be more careful with that. That chute needs to open higher on this pod. It is clearly heavier. And we need to ditch the chute. But we got away with it. I am glad we were over water. I don't think we'd have survived that on land. Yikes. Or, well, we might have, I don't know, but we dived a long way with that hit. Kerbal concussion program. Especially given that incident with the solar panels. Right. So, after a brave escape from an unexpectedly hard landing, right, we're looking at about 400 science gathered. That's about the same as what we've had before. Bit of funds, but we've gained a lot more from our missions. Bob has leveled up. And that's about it. And we finished another world first, because we returned... Oh, we broke ocean depth. We dived 10 meters with that impact. Oh, jeez. Right, hopefully you've all enjoyed that. I know I did with that ending. Sheesh. As I say at the end of these videos, I am a game dev as well as a YouTuber, so as well as all the like, comment, subscribe stuff. Go check out the links in the comments. I've got some comments in the description. I've got the games I make linked there. You might like them. And I'll see you guys all next time.